of questions with Phil Tom. Phil, thanks for coming on.
Nice to meet you.
I really appreciate it. And we're going to talk a little bit about the event, probably mixed in with the questions, or if we don't mix them in with the questions, we'll get to it at the end. Sound good?
Sure.
All right, cool. So question number one, you just listened to all of these, so you should be armed and ready. What's your favorite golf movie?
Caddyshack. We're agreeing with that one.
Caddyshack. It's gone in spurts. It was said all the time, and then when we started to get younger people on the show, it wasn't said at all. And now it goes in waves, and then it's the answer that comes up a lot.
The Bill Murray when he's hitting the flowers or something.
Yes.
Like
Cinderella story.
That's one of the greatest scenes in all of movie history. And then he tells the priest when the priest is having a great round and it's raining like cats and dogs. He says, "Oh, I don't think the heavy stuff comes till later, Father."
So good.
If I flip through the channels and I catch it, I can't turn it off.
Can't stop.
And I love Rodney Dangerfield is my favorite by far of all
You
comedians.
get a free bowl of soup with that hat? Oh, it looks good on you though. Question number two: what's your favorite club in your bag and why?
Have to be the pitching wedge. We have to.
Let's talk about your golf course at your house.
Well, the pitching wedge, I say that because a number of reasons, but I took my son to see Fred Couples in 1991 do a seminar, or a little display up in Seattle, and he started he had all these kids there, and he started from the championship tees, and he hit probably 25 straight wedges to the women's tee in a beautiful grouping. And then I'm like my son, I pull out the driver, come on, Fred, you know. So he finally turned. He hadn't said a word yet. That's how he started. He finally turned to the crowd with the wedge, and he says, "This is the game of golf." He says, "You learn how to play it, you can play the game of golf. But if you don't learn how to play a wedge, you can't play this game." It was very, very powerful. And by the way, then he took out a driver and he hit it over the trees into traffic.
Right after he gave his speech.
Right after his speech, yeah.
His inspirational speech about the driver. That's the type of story that this show is built on. That's gold.
Yeah. Everybody asked me how I came up with the idea of the tournament I had in my yard.
Let's start. I don't mean to interrupt you, but did you build the golf course first, or did you build the golf course for the tournament?
Well, I'll get there.
Oh, okay, great.
So I grew up in Indiana, youngest of six, and I used to play fantasy games in the yard. I'd drop like 5 or 6 balls down. I'd be Raymond Floyd, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and everybody, and I'd be chipping to win the Masters and everything else.
I did that too.
It's unbelievable how many people did.
Yes.
And probably the most beautiful thing about what I'm doing with this tournament in the yard is I'm transporting a lot of people back to their childhood for just a moment.
Right. Which
is so beautiful. But I'm probably the only residential golf course designer in the world. I mean, if you Google it, there's no such profession. And I everywhere I've ever lived from Indiana, and I've lived in a number of places, I would always be out in the yard or across the street or something and playing these fantasy games. Like I can still do it today. I mean, I can totally go in my own world. And so up in Seattle, I buy this house on the lake. That's why it's called the Lake Shore. And it probably took me 2 or 3 years to get 18 holes. But I got my 3 holes right away. I think I'm the only person in the world that could have found 18 holes on this property. If I wake up in the middle of the night and say, "Oh, I can put holes up by the street," or I can redevelop a little bit back in the backyard and put another hole or two. Anyway, it's a beautiful course. It's no longer. I don't think it's no longer there. A Jewish family, an Orthodox Jewish family, bought it with 8 kids, and I think they let it go someplace else. But so I had no intention, but I had 4 years, and then from day one, year 2000, like July of 2000 in Seattle, I called it Golf's Fifth Major. We got like 13 players come the first year. Second year, 25, third year, 35, and the fourth year, 55 players came, and we had so much fun. One club. And then I decided, my office is still up there, I'm a portfolio manager, but I decided to move down to Vegas, and with no intention of bringing this tournament down here. But I bought a house that I loved and in Scotch 80s, and it only took me about 4 to 6 months to design 18 holes. There's no room for a 19th hole on this property, but it's almost identical to what I designed in 2004. So it's going on 20 years. And immediately we had Golf's fifth major, the first year here, and this will be the 20th year, so 24 straight years of this charity event.
And I know your shirts are blue. That's not a coincidence. Why don't you talk about the blue jacket?
Well, if you're going to have a major, you're going to have to have a jacket. And I've copied a few things from Augusta. We have the chairman's cabin where every year.
This is great.
Well, what's really unbelievable? This course is like 420 yards long. Okay, and the average player only gets one green in regulation per round on average.
Oh.
No matter if you're a +4 or if you're a 20 handicap.
I'm guessing the greens are pretty small.
They're not that small, but there's out of bounds. A lot of them right after the green. So
you have to chip.
It's like being at 11 at Augusta. You made a mistake if you're there and you're not in the water. If you're on some of these greens, it was probably a mistake because you're too close to the out of bounds. And if you're going to shoot a good score, you just got to keep the ball in play. There's out of bounds on every hole. So the regular tees are only 420. The championship tees are only 24 yards longer, and it's probably at least 10 shots more difficult. It slightly changes the angles of the marriage between that golf ball and a wedge, which is a lifetime study to understand. I mean, this is a thorough examination of the wedge. You're going to have to hit left-handed if you put the ball in the wrong place. You're going to have to turn the club over and hit it backhanded if you want to keep the ball under some of the diabolical fences that you can put the ball on the wrong side of. You got to flop the ball, bump and run. I mean,
do you have hazards? I know you have OB.
Yeah, there's
do you have sand traps or?
Well, yeah, we got pot bunkers on number 12. And they're unlike bunkers in America. I mean, they're like the European bunkers. If you get in them, you'll get penalized.
That's so great.
I don't think anyone's ever holed out from the 3 bunkers on number 12. But 12 is a rather easy hole if you just keep it out of the bunkers. And no, it's just so much fun. And I'll tell you that what kind of bothers me is we have somewhat of a monopoly here. This might be the most unique golf experience on the face of the earth, and yet just the people that play in my yard every year are enjoying it. We should have at least 50 courses in Vegas alone. Every city in America should have at least 50 golf courses.
Have you thought about going into the
design business?
Yeah, offering to design, because I can think of a couple of guys right off the top of my head that would want to do that.
Well, Shark Tank called me twice. I butchered the interview. I think they did. They said, "How much money do you need?" I said, "Maybe $5 million or something." And so anyway, because I have no sales, I have no business in that aspect. But no, if I was a younger man, I'd hang my shingle and I'd design courses. I met Howard Schultz of Starbucks years ago in Seattle, and what Starbucks did was prove that every cup of coffee in America was stale. If you bought Folgers in the grocery store, it might have been roasted 2 years before that. So you're actually drinking stale coffee. What I've proved to myself, and anybody who plays the Lakeshore, everybody's yard, especially the nice homes in America, are not utilized. I'm in my yard every day when I'm home, my front yard, backyard, everywhere. If you go down Beverly Hills, you might see somebody in the yard, and it's always the landscaper.
Yeah.
I mean, and yet they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in landscaping, right, that nobody sees. I mean, the house I bought in Seattle.
That's such an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the house I bought in Seattle was a very famous Alhada family who started Long Acres, the racetrack, and I was the second owner. They put a $110,000 landscaping job on this house, and it's kind of a downhill runway or downhill driveway. And I enjoyed the rhododendrons and everything when I got up in the morning and went to work and everything, but after a while, I didn't see it. I didn't see it. My neighbors would have to go in the yard to actually see it, and yet $110,000, and I could design a golf course on half an acre to an acre, put 18 holes on it for probably $50,000.
That's so great. I love that so much.
But,
Let's talk a little bit about how you chose which charity to work with.
Well, I started out as a charity event from day one in 2000 in Seattle, the Forgotten Children's Fund, which was they presented presents to low-income families that couldn't afford presents for the children. Everything was wonderful, and I delivered that for 2 years. And then third year, I went and the office was closed, and I said, one of the neighbors said, well, Make-A-Wish bought them. I bought them. How do you buy a charity? Anyway,
wow.
they merged with them or something. So I went with Make-A-Wish. I don't really want to say anything bad about Make-A-Wish, but I was with them for 18 years, and I think the last 5 or 10 years they weren't quite
the same
truthful. They weren't quite as truthful with me as they should have been. Because I always ask them every year. I said, okay, so 90% of the money's been raised goes to the wishes, and I always got the yes, right? I'm not sure that's true. I mean, I don't think it's quite as bad as United Way or some of the others, but so then I did 1 year for Eric Lloyd, the policeman who got COVID and died.
Oh, yeah.
And Mindy Lloyd I've known Mindy a long time, and so we did 1 year for the Injured Police Officers Fund, and then I played poker with Brad Garrett, and he might be my second favorite comedian behind Rodney, and he has a charity for that he basically founded for Maximum Hope, which is similar to the Wish a little bit, and we deal with terminally ill children and families or parents that have to quit their job to take care of their child, or they can't continue to work if your child is having problems, and so 100% goes to the families, support them, and also they deal with the children's hospitals here, so the money stays here in Las Vegas. So it's beautiful.
I love all of that. I think that sounds like the most fun and inspiring and noble event maybe running. It's so cool. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Question number 3. What's your dream foursome? So you can pick any 3 people, alive or dead, to play golf with. Who are you going to pick to play one round with? Who are you going to pick, and where are you going to play? Are you going to play in your yard?
Of course, but if you told me I couldn't play in the yard, the most beautiful course that I've played, and I think it might have helped with my design of the Lake Shore, is Cypress Point. I was lucky enough to play Cypress in 1986, and
it's my father's favorite.
There was a survey years ago that over 50% of the pros said it was their favorite course, and of course Augusta would be right up. I haven't played there yet either, but it'd be my yard. Bobby Jones would have to be in the foursome. I mean, because
You've gotten him quite a bit.
I'd probably pick a lot of people before the money was huge in golf, because if you played back in Bobby Jones' days and so forth, you played for the love of the game.
That's right. You didn't make money.
No. So guys like Ben Hogan and so forth. I mean, Ben Hogan would almost quit the game. I don't know if you read the book The Match.
No, I haven't.
Oh my! You have to read it. You literally have to read it. In fact, you want to read it more than once. It's a beautiful, beautiful true story book. But but Hogan almost, because he wasn't making any money, almost gave up the game. He couldn't buy groceries or something.
Wow.
So I put Bobby in there. I put Bobby Jones in there, and then because of the aspect of the Lake Shore, I know Jordan Spieth did similar to what I did with his brother. He was chipping balls over the house growing up. He had big bowl holes, We didn't have a hole maker or something, so you're chipping into a bowl you dug with a shovel or something. And I heard him interviewed on that, and then I knew Jordan was so good because he's so good with the wedge. He even said one time he'd almost prefer to miss the green because he can get up and down a lot better than he can with the putter. And when he first came on the tour, he was a great putter too, but I think he's lost it a little bit there. But So I put him there. And then the one golfer that I think I was very close to getting on my course at one time, who's regarded as one of the best short game players in our era, Phil Mickelson.
Wow. You
So-
almost got Lefty to come play in your.
Yeah, well, I don't want to go to that story, but yeah, he's on the list. So you listeners out there that know Phil, will you have him give me a call?
Shout out Phil Mickelson. We know that you watch every week.
I do want to go. I do want to go a little bit more aspect on the Lakeshore itself.
Mm-hmm.
I trademarked Golf Swift Major 8 or 9 years ago with the attorneys and everything else. It was unbelievable that it was available. But I think what the Live tournament in the last couple of years, in a way, it conceptually helps people know what I'd love to see happen. This thing right here, the cell phone, it's the young people in the world. It's going to be, there's some pluses to it, but it's going to be incredibly detrimental. And parents who have 6, 7, 8, 10-year-old boys and girls are going to have a tough time getting them off the cell phone to even have a conversation, And by the way, I have a beautiful 21-year-old daughter.
Who's probably on her phone a lot.
And a 44-year-old
We all are.
and a 44-year-old son.
Even-
That's my only spread. I only have 2.
I would even say our generation is addicted to their phones. It's almost universal. It's not just young people.
I never thought I would be. But this would be a plus to Angel Park and the golf courses in America, because the courses are going to have a tough time getting the young people to be taking 4 or 5 hours to play golf in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So
We talk about timing all the time.
the beautiful aspect of this, my daughter turns 2 or maybe 2.5. I'm going to have her in the yard. I'm going to be teaching her the game with the wedge, so that we don't go to the driving range and get bored to death. So we don't go out on a big course where we really can't when you're that young and you're holding up people and everything else, and nobody's having any fun. Maybe they go to a different sport. But if you get them in the yard, enjoying the game, the beautiful game of golf, it would benefit the sport of golf immensely, I think, which is going to be really competitive to the new generation coming up. I mean that's that could be the biggest plus of the Lakeshore.
For sure.
And again, you got to come over and play the course.
I can't wait.
Because you're going to see that it really is the game of golf, and it really is. If you don't get about 10, 20 rounds under your belt, you can't possibly beat me or somebody that has experience.
I love it.
But once you do, they wrote an article in the paper. Brian Hurlbert, who he used to follow us quite a bit, so he retired. He wrote an article that I was dead serious. If I'll play anybody 36 holes on my golf course, and the loser writes a $100,000 check to charity, nobody's taking me up on it yet.
Yeah.
And I'm including Jordan Spieth, I'm including Tiger, I'm including anybody.
That's amazing.
Because you have to figure out
Course knowledge.
the idiosyncrasies of this course, and even though I'm a scratch golfer on it, if I get bad breaks, like a couple months ago, I shot 27 over par, and I'm the best in the world on this course. But
That's so fun.
so
Question number 4.
Question number 4.
What's your aiming fluid? And I'm curious. It sounds like this golf course is probably prone to a lot of drinking on it. I mean, do a lot of the guys is it too competitive for that?
And you touched on this with
Jay.
fairway. The game of golf, I mean, it's often said that it shows somebody's character faster than any other sport you could play, And a lot of the game of golf, you can actually daydream a little bit because you're hitting a drive. Okay, we've hit so many drives that it's probably going to be around the fairway. And you're hitting an 8-iron or something, it's probably going to be pretty close because you've hit it, but you have a lot of time to think about it. At the Lakeshore, and this is the beauty, if you don't concentrate on one shot, human mind can only can concentrate for a little while at a time, but if you don't concentrate on a shot, you're going to hit the ball out of bounds. So if you add alcohol into the mix at the tournament, you're not going to win. You're not going to win this lake show. You'll still have fun. There's a lot of people who play that have no chance of winning. Most of their goal is to try to make the cut. But so on the big course, I almost never drank. But you play with people that they down a 12-pack by the time the 9 holes is over. But
some golfers play better with alcohol.
Well, they sure think they do. Yeah.
Well, it's actually been proven. My dad's got a great golf story where Tom Weiskopf got beat by a guy, I forget his name, but on tour, that was drinking gin and tonics at 11 in the morning, and then had it in a paper cup on the course. So that's kind of interesting.
If you go back to the book The Match, the 2 best amateurs in the world, I think it was Howie Ward and Ken Venturi, played Ben Hogan and who's the guy that won 11? The Perfect Swing. Won 11 tournaments in a row. Having a senior moment.
That's all right.
Well, anyway, Ben Hogan and he just died. They have a tournament in his honor in Texas. Anyway, these 4.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Byron.
No.
Byron.
It's not Byron Nelson.
Byron Nelson.
Oh, okay.
Byron Nelson. So Byron Nelson and Ben Hogan play Cypress Point against Howie Ward and Ken Venturi, but Howie Ward shows up. He's going off into the woods and drinking, and he was a fantastic golfer.
Isn't that crazy?
He was one of the best amateurs in the world and a fantastic striker. So anyway,
that's fun.
So anyway, no, mine would be at the lake shore. Would probably be water until I have a nice, wonderful party that starts at 6:00 at night.
And then what are you having?
Well, I'm going to probably have a good single malt scotch, maybe. Well, the mayor is my neighbor, Oscar and Carolyn, and
I thought you were going to call someone the mayor. The actual mayor? Both mayors?
So all my bartenders used to be. He hasn't been over the last couple of years, but Oscar would come over and have a martini, and I usually have one of his special martinis with him. But no, it's
so cool.
But anyway, it's a fun time. Even if you don't attend the golf tournament, the party is probably one of the better parties in Vegas every year. So
that's so great. Question number 5. You don't come off to me at all as having an angry streak. When you get frustrated on your golf course, when you aren't playing well, how do you react to that? And how do you control that? Or how do you let loose on that? What do you do?
I think the Lakeshore has taught me to just go with the breaks more than any others because there are so many bad breaks. There's a few good breaks on the course, but there's so many bad breaks.
So it forces you to just focus on the next shot.
Yeah, you just got to say reload, whatever. Fairway also mentioned a little bit about poker. Now, I was fortunate enough to win a World Series of Poker bracelet 15 years ago.
Congratulations.
I'm not a pro or anything, but
15 years ago would have been
2008.
2008. So that's when the young kids were coming up with the GTO, and the game was a lot harder to beat by 08.
Yeah.
I mean, 04 when the boom happened, or 03, I can't remember, to about 07 was great. But then all of these high school kids that got bit by the bug that were studying math, they came in. That's a crazy time to win it. What'd you win your bracelet in? Which event?
Well, when I won it, Phil Helm is a pretty good friend of mine, and when I won the tournament,
Really?
he said, Phil, you won the most difficult bracelet there is to win. I won a 5,000 shootout. You have to win 3 tables in a row. You have to take all the chips. So every time I see Phil, now he's got like 17 bracelets.
Yeah.
My first question to Phil, every time I see him, hey, Phil, how many shootout bracelets you got?
He doesn't have any?
No, he calls me a few words, and then...
I love that. Phil, thank you so much for coming on.
Okay, all right.
Wasn't this fun? Yeah,
that was wonderful.
This was great. I really enjoyed it. And thank you for watching. This is actually the end of the show now. So we'll be signing off. And until next time, hit 'em straight from your friends at Angel Park. Cheers.